My entire outlook is this dependable? Will it save your life? Hello everyone and welcome back to AmmoMart.com. I hope you've been enjoying the videos we've been doing of late, and if you have, don't be afraid to like and subscribe. We received this a while back from a company called GOWUTAR, and it's a pistol red dot optic. As you know, I'm a big fan of that system on my Caniks, and I typically use HoloSun. In the interest of full disclosure, we're not paid by GOWUTAR. They sent this unit to us free of charge so that we may put it through its paces and give them a review. So we're not endorsed by them, but we are very fortunate for them to send us one of our products, and I'm hoping that both of us will be happy by the time we're done. There are other reviews out there on this particular product, so you can check that out as well. I won't list any of the links. It's a pretty easy find off of YouTube, just basic search. So this optic is kind of intriguing to me based on the price point alone. You can pick this up from Amazon for around $110 to $120. And of course, shipping is, also dependent on that price point. But when we received it, I started looking it over, and it comes with a tremendous amount of features for that price point. For instance, it's made of 70-75 aluminum. It has 10 different brightness settings, 8 for day, 2 for night, and easily adjustable 1 MOA clicks. And interestingly enough as well, waterproof, shockproof, and fog-proof. Before we continue, I would like to kind of get a little bit of a rationale behind the way I'm going to look at all of the products we review on the channel, which is this. First, when we're talking about something that goes on your handgun, is it what I would consider a true life safety tool? Which said differently means I will not be kind to this product. I will put it through its paces, and I won't be evaluating it based on a few rounds at the range. I'm hoping to exceed at least 1,000 rounds fired in various conditions at various ranges, and I am going to try to work it hard, and hopefully it will hold up. If I have any suggestion that it's not a true life safety tool or unreliable, then of course the review will reflect that. I'm not a fan of endorsing a product or being ultra happy with it based on 5 minutes at the range and perhaps maybe it didn't fall off the gun. Big deal. If people are going to use it on their handgun, then it needs to be at least as reliable as the pistol. Before we continue on, I'm going to attempt to do is put this on the newer gun to the market, the Smith & Wesson Equalizer, which is kind of like an enhanced version of the Shield in 9mm. It does come already MOS cut, and importantly for this product, of course, the Chang A20, we're hoping that it is as advertised that it is a true RMR cut. Now, people that are super familiar with optics know how maddening it can be. Even though it says on the box RMR footprint, it may not fit your pistol. Complicating the matter further is the Equalizer came with no plates from Smith & Wesson to mount your optic. Sometimes companies make them plastic. I've heard rumors that on certain models Smith & Wesson made plastic plates for some guns. This one came without. So if we need a plate, I suppose the customer has two options. One, you can get a hold of Smith and see if they have any available. Or two, try to fab one up on your own. I'm hoping that's not the case and that the two will actually marry up. But I am concerned about the geometry of the gun related to the rear sight and the dovetail. The cut ends roughly here, and about another 1/8 of an inch is the dovetail sight assembly. So I'm hoping she'll fit right in there, but time will tell. On the exterior, the packaging of the GOWUTAR looks very, very good. I'm not sure how to pronounce the company's name, so I'm just taking my best shot at it. People that know more Chinese than me, drop me a line and let me know how that all actually works. But you can tell when you open up, of course, you have your instruction kit, and it does seem to be pretty in-depth, and also, just on a cursory scan, very easy to understand. Opening up the box, you have, of course, your very common polishing cloth, your screws that do appear to come with blue Loctite, which is very common in the pistol optic business. And of course, you have your cover for the optic. And this one comes actually with a Picatinny rail assembly that obviously will take off when we go to mount it onto the equalizer. Two ways to mount, of course, is one of the advertising points. I don't know how many people actually put this on the top of a rail system, but you could if you wanted to do that. Looking the optic over, it has a nice heft to it. It seems to be well constructed and operates on a 1632 battery, which is very common in pistol optics. Right away, I noticed one of the features I really like about it is you do not have to remove the optic to change the battery. That's kind of a cool thing in this price point. There are models out there from UTG or sold by Leapers that maybe you do have to remove every time. Some you do, some you don't. I'm not a fan of that because I've always found if you have to remove it, it changes to zero. So this is kind of a nice convenience. They do send you two different tools. I'm assuming that one would go, yeah, so one is used to change the windage and elevation, and those screws are right here. I'm hoping for the audible click that they advertise on the box. It makes it easier to move in and out as the dope on the optic changes. And let me see here. It looks like, just from my naked eye, that get the one tool separated here, that yeah, it's almost like a star, sort of T20 kind of Torx bit. And they are the same for both the battery cover and the screws to mount the optic, which is a really nice feature as well. So 1632 battery like we talked about. I'm going to try to get this guy on. Normally, it's a press and hold of both buttons, and that would seem to be true for this. Yep, there it is. So you press and hold both. I'm going to change the brightness setting. We will later on try to get a close eye view of the dot through the camera lens. I can tell you right now that the optic has a very nice field of view, and even at maximum illumination, the burst effect on the optic is not to the point where you can't make out the dot. Very nice feature there. Yeah. So right now, without a whole lot of evidence related to actually using the optic on the gun, this guy is pretty well done, and I would say at least on par with packaging and features of optics that run twice or sometimes three times as much. So hopefully it will continue to hold up, but so far right now, I'm a fan. GOWUTAR looks like they're onto something, especially for $120. So I'm going to try to get the Picatinny rail off the bottom of the optic, get it on the equalizer, and hopefully you won't see me again until we're on the range. If you do, you'll know there was a problem marrying the two up. See you in a few minutes. So unfortunately, as we talk, you see me behind the desk and not on the range. Clearly, on the box it says micro red dot sight. However, I noticed right away it has more of a full-sized footprint, and it's a very hefty, large unit, and at least as far as the Smith equalizer goes, will in fact not in any way, shape, or form mount up to this. This MOS cut is not near long enough, and importantly, if you can see right here where I'm pointing, the holes to accept the screws and the two pegs here to allow the optic to fit on more firmly and more securely aren't close to lining up. So obviously what I'm going to do now is go find a full-size pistol to put this on, because at least in this case, not going to work in any way, shape, or form with this RMR micro cut MOS from Smith. So not to say that this is a bad optic, however, I'm not sure if there's a disconnect in their definition of what a micro optic is, say as compared to what we believe it is, or it's merely something that was lost in translation. I'm not sure which, however, I find this to be not micro in any way, shape, or form. So we're going to switch to full size and see how things go. So after a slight delay, once again we did determine that this is a macro optic, not a micro. I'd like to approach the camera right now to show you what we ended up with. I actually have it on my number 2 plate from Canik. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of the Rival, and I knew that it would fit because my hollow sun had rode on top of here before. Now if we get a little closer, you can kind of see how all of this worked. So one of the downsides, and this was true of the hollow sun as well, is you do, due to the design of the Canik, lose the ability to co-witness the sights. Okay? So would I call that a knock for GOWUTAR? No, because it's more of a design of the Canik than the actual optic. With the setup on the Rival, you do not have the ability to co-witness the sights through the glass of the optic. Some people would find that to be a massive disadvantage and actually would throw it out as a source of everyday carry firearm because of that. I'm not really in that camp, however. I don't necessarily believe that there's 2 types of optics, ones that have failed and ones that are going to. I've run the hollow sun for ages and it gets a tremendous amount of abuse. I shoot hundreds of rounds a week. I'm in and out of vehicles, forklifts when I'm in the warehouse. You couldn't be more unkind to that optic than I've been, and it simply works. Yes, you do have to keep track of the battery, I get it. However, if you're not willing to do that, I don't know why you're running an optic to begin with. So for me, as optics have been developed over the course of time, and let's use the word perfected, I'm less and less concerned about the optic not working. I would be as concerned about that as I would the sights falling off of my gun. I just don't think it's a rational fear anymore with a quality optic. Hopefully the GOWUTAR is that, but we're going to find out. So we have the GOWUTAR on my Canik Rival. I have the target out at 10 feet, and we'll try to get a little bit of a zero going and shoot the gun at various distances. For purposes of right now, we're going to stay right on the center chest bullseye. So I have tuned the illumination down so we can be a little bit more precise. Bit low right. What I'd like to do is move the strike of the round to the left. These tools I find from GOWUTAR don't work terribly good with the screw slots. The one edge of it is too small and the other one seems a little big. So anyway, let's see what result we got if we brought this thing over to the left. Acceptable. Yeah. So we're straight hot and normal. I'm going to move the target out a bit. This is the 20-foot line. So still on bullseye. I might have cranked it a little bit too far to the left as the distance increases, but now that I've said it, if you notice a massive left trend, that's probably what it is, but we're going to go out a little bit farther. So this will be at 50 feet with the GOWUTAR, our initial zeroing process. So you'll notice we have a fairly good result. Everything stayed nice and tight. This is probably just, a little bit of paying too much attention to the wobble zone on my part, kind of timing the shot. But you'll notice we have an extremely tight clump, even going out 40 feet doesn't change the strike of things very much. Today we're on the range here at Ghost Town, our normal setup in beautiful Findlay, Ohio, to finish our product review of the GOWUTAR A20 red dot sight. Since we've talked last, I've fired approximately 1,000 rounds through the Canik Rival, of course, with the A20. I must tell you, in the beginning, I was struggling a bit to zero the gun out to my own satisfaction, which I've later learned must have been something I was doing wrong, because in that period of time, I have fallen completely in love with this product. I must tell you, for the price that it cost, it is every bit the optic that the HoloSun 507 series is, right down to its shake-awake technology. The GOWUTAR A20 comes with shake-awake technology, which is a heck of a feature at this price point. Right now, as you can tell, there's no dot visible in the screen, and what I'll do is jostle the gun, and hopefully you'll be able to tell how quickly that it does actually come awake. So it doesn't take much jostling to wake this up, but I'm going to give it a tap right here, and hopefully we'll be able to catch this all on the camera. The gun holds 0 at any range, which we'll demonstrate here briefly. And before we conclude today, I would like to do a couple of drop tests to test its 0. I haven't done that yet for fear of breaking the unit, and it's the only one that I have. Along with the quality built into the A20, I must tell you that I've had error-free usage of the optics since I put it on the gun. The only issue I did have early on was I noticed that there was kind of a pulse to the brightness of the dot, which ended up being a loose battery cap. That got me to thinking that I could replace the battery and check the 0, which I did, and it was absolutely fine. The battery cap hasn't loosened up since, which kind of tells me I didn't have it tight enough in the first place, which is a word of caution. Before you get maybe frustrated with whatever piece of equipment you're working with, a little bit of perseverance before passing judgment might not only save you a little bit of time, but also money. I gotta tell you once again, I wasn't sold on this guy out of the gate, but since then, I gotta tell you, you could not find a better optic for the money. This thing has very, very many applications for new shooters as well as experienced ones, which we'll go over when we conclude the video. What I'd like to do is I've set the range up, and when you can actually see what's going on, we're going to shoot at various distances, not only to show the accuracy of the dot, but how easy it is to pick it up on presentation. So I'm going to get geared up. We'll change the setup so everybody can see the range, and we'll do a little live fire at a longer distance than we did previously. So what I have is set up some individual targets freshly painted so we can see the impact at 7, 18, 22, and the far circular pop-offs down there are at actually 25 yards. So this will just be a slow fire accuracy test demonstrating that the GOWUTAR can hold its 0 across multiple ranges. I know that the gun hits point of aim and point of impact at right around 50 feet, which does lend a slightly high sort of aiming point at closer ranges, but for most practical uses, not really much of a problem, which is to say holding up 1 inch at 5 yards, 15 feet, not much of a hardship. So I'll slow fire, try to get everything right down the middle, and see what happens. Now the dot is starting to present a high left stroke at longer distance, as you can see in the corner, which I've also noticed with my HoloSun. We actually have a video of me talking about red dot concepts earlier in our series. Basics of red dot, got the very same result with a much more expensive optic, which is kind of interesting. Now we'll move out to the 25 yard, sort of compensate for the distance. And that's 5 in a row at the 25 yard mark or so. The gun tracks very well. You can see the dot. The dot doesn't have much of a starburst effect. Yes, I've seen slightly better, but I've seen a lot worse. And once again, for the money, budget price, not a budget optic whatsoever. The gun also is easy to track during its recoil impulse. I'll shoot a little string at the 7-yard mark to demonstrate. All you have to do, once the dot resets, press the trigger. So I've moved back a little bit. Right now the close target is at 28 yards, the middle one 39, and the far one at 45. Obviously, knowing where your dot is zeroed to is an integral part of hitting the target. So I'm going to try and sort of do a little bit of Kentucky windaging to stay on the target. But I think you'll see even at greater distances, the GOWUTAR is very reliable if I do my part. So we'll start close at the 28-yard mark, sort of compensate. Good hit. Good hit. Now we'll go to the 39-yard. I'm just moving to get a better angle. Solid hit. Solid hit. Almost the same spot. And now we'll go out to the 45-yard. Solid hit. Is that a hit? Couldn't hear the sound. That might have been me. Dung it again. You can tell, once you find the aiming point, she'll do her part. The one miss I had long was just my incorrect hold. But now what I would like to do is clear the gun out, do a little bit of a drop test to see if it actually is shockproof, pick the gun back up with no adjustments, and see how much things have changed. So let me clear this out real quick. So this will be to verify whether or not the A20 is actually shockproof as advertised. Hopefully I won't break my gun, and more importantly, hopefully I won't break the GOWUTAR, but we're gonna give it a shot. Roughly 5.5, maybe 5 feet. Not kind to it whatsoever. I'm gonna reload the gun and see what happened. I'll do my best to keep the same hold so that won't be the one that would affect the accuracy. As you can tell, you can already see where we're at on the close strikes. Hopefully I'll be able to get somewhere close with the correct hold and trigger manipulation. If I cannot, what we're gonna do is move a little closer, taking maybe the potential of my margin of error out of it. You'll have to forgive me a second. I just noticed I have some debris sticking out of my muzzle. I wanna make sure I have a clear barrel before I continue, so hold tight. So that's a very good illustration of another firearm safety point. If at any point you drop your gun, whether on accident, which is usually the case, or on purpose, you must make sure that you have a clear barrel and an unobstructed breech. If you do not, it could result in catastrophic failure and severe injury or worse. I happened to look down and catch it, and it's also a cautionary tale of letting your mind wander. I was concentrating on the script and what I wanted to do next, and not necessarily the safety sort of condition of the weapon. Could be a catastrophic failure. Keep that in mind. So now I'm going to try the same low right hold and verify she's on target still. Good hit. Click, no boom. Those appear to be in the same general location as the first set of shots. We'll have to do a slow-mo perhaps on the video to verify that, but now I'm going to move out to the middle distance. Also a good hit. Also a good hit. And now we'll move out to the lengthier far target. I gotta tell you folks, close enough to shockproof for me. As you can tell with an occluded barrel, that was an aggressive drop, picked the gun back up, went right back to work. with no discernible difference even at great distance in point of aim and point of impact. Solid quality optic. GOWUTAR actually provided us with a discount code that look for in the description, and we'll send you a link to that. Back in the beginning, we noticed when we were mounting the optic that it is actually not a micro, it's a macro RMR footprint. And I'm not sure if that's perhaps a language barrier or maybe a misunderstanding in some way. I'm going to try to get with GOWUTAR and work that out with them. But for now, I must tell you that is the only downside I see to this optic, is the packaging is somewhat misleading, but don't be misled. This is a good optic. In case I haven't covered this previously, I want people to be aware that I'm not compensated by GOWUTAR in any way, shape, or form. The only compensation was that they provided me with this free optic, which, as you can already tell, I wouldn't be able to sell to anybody else because I have not been kind to this guy in any stretch. I've shot the optic for at least 1,000 rounds, and I must tell you, do not believe the hype. Lots of optics are made in China. You're going to pay either X or X plus for them. If you're not sure about whether you want to convert to red dot and don't want to spend a lot of money, start here. If you want a quality backup optic at a fair price, start here. If you want to compete with a red dot optic, start here. This checks all of the boxes. I see no advantage whatsoever into the HoloSun 507 as compared to this. You do get more options depending on the HoloSun you buy, of course, with the solar battery capability and those things, but for most people, a complete non-issue. This is a quality optic, and I want to be clear about one thing. I look at every bit of this industry as a life safety tool. In the beginning, I said I don't shoot necessarily for fun or recreation, even though it is. My entire outlook is this dependable? Will it save your life? And it absolutely will. You just don't have to pay a lot of money for it. The last time I checked, it was selling on Amazon for $117. That's meaningful money in today's economy. Make the switch if you can. This is a quality optic, whether you're a beginner or an experienced shooter. I'm a fan, and I will not take this off my training gun as a testimonial. I will not. I see no reason to. In fact, if you don't believe me, I'm going to open up the box right here. And once I get rid of all of the mounting hardware, this is actually the HoloSun. I don't know if you can see this or not. That was on my training gun that I've been shooting in this video series. I'm going to just leave it in the GOWUTAR box and continue with it. Totally impressed, totally satisfied. It is better than me, so why change? Thanks for your time and attention. If you like these videos, don't be afraid to like and subscribe, and maybe we can damage some more people's stuff.